One event that occurred on March 20th, 1956 was that Tunisia declared itself an independent country with Bourguiba as the prime minister. They declared themselves free from France. At the time, Hamid Ali Bourguiba was the leader of the independent movement, and he was the one who declared Tunisia a republic in 1957. Tunisia's new constitution actually came from the model of the French constitution. This means that their constitutions were both very similar, which means they lived in a very similar way. Tunisia had become the center of the Arab culture and learning. They were assimilated into the Turkish Empire in the 16th century. This was a French predicate.
At the end of 2010 and the start of 2011, many protests and demonstrations had started in the Arab world. The protests became known as the Arab Spring. It was also sometimes called the Arab Awakening. In Tunisia, this led to a triumphant revolution with some problems. One thing that was a problem was that economic growth could not keep up with population growth, which resulted in unemployment. Unemployment in the Arab world was huge at the time. This was a reason for economic insecurity and destabilization with any political system. Regional youth employment stands at 23%, as this nearly doubled the world average that was 13%. The Arab countries have not been able to fix this situation and supply more jobs, especially after the world's financial crises. Therefore, this should be an issue in Tunisia. Another problem is that there is also a lack of political freedom. The emergency law number 162 that was issued in 1958 stated that the police gained more power and the people had less. It is important to pay attention to the fact that this had an impact on democracy and political freedom in the Arab Spring countries. Because of these problems that have occurred in the past, this could also be a problem in Tunisia in the future.
During the Arab Spring in the year 2011, from January to June, President Ben Ali went into exile over the ongoing protests that were spread across Tunisia. President Ben Ali went to Saudi Arabia and took his family along. In the meantime, the government immediately asked for an international arrest warrant. Ben Ali then sentenced to life in prison for various crimes. The Tunisian people saw this as a victory. Some people were not positive that Ben Ali would return before the beginning of the 2014 elections. There was also still a curfew in the capital, and the soldiers were still guarding the ministries and other public buildings.
In December of 2010, protests erupted nationwide over unemployment and political restrictions. One of these protests included Mohamed Bouazizi. Bouazizi protested against the corrupt government because a police officer took his scale since he did not have a fruit vendor's permit. He then walked to the government's building and lit himself on fire in the middle of the street to protest against the oppressive leader, Ben Ali. This was argued to spark the beginning of the Arab Spring and protests in Tunisia. Ben Ali's oppressive regime continued during these protests, as he told the public that the use of violence in the streets by a minority of extremists against the interests of their country is not acceptable. As he said, it will have a negative impact on creating jobs. It will discourage investors and tourists, which will hit jobs. Ben Ali also said that there would be severe punishment for those of who rioted or instigated the rioting against Ben Ali. This just gave the protesters more reasoning to rebel. In August of 2012, thousands of people protested in Tunis, the capital, against the Islamic-led government about reducing women's rights. The draft constitution said that women are complementary to men, but the 1956 constitution said that women had equal rights as men. This was a major deal because even though the 1956 constitution said that men and women had equal rights, they were not treating women the same as the law said they had to.
In the future, the country is going to have an economic collapse. This is because the economic growth cannot keep up with the population growth, which is resulting in unemployment. Also, Tunisia does not have a stable government, as there is an interim government since Ben Ali went into exile. The 2014 Tunisian elections are coming up, and there may be violence or protests, which could lead to further chaos in the country.
One example of economic collapse in a country after an Arab Spring revolution is with Egypt. Mubarak was sent out of power, and their elections were complete chaos and violence, which led to total downfall in the country. This could possibly also happen to Tunisia in the near future.